Now, Indianapolis is more than just the Indy 500 and cornfields. It's actually a more vibrant city than what people realize, with a booming job market and a lifestyle that usually surprises a whole lot of people that have never been here before. So in this video, we're gonna cover three things. First, why are thousands of people choosing to move to Indianapolis or the metro instead of a lot of other Midwest cities? What you can actually expect when you move here as far as your cost of living, what types of housing, what types of culture, what types of lifestyle, and of course, what types of weather you're gonna encounter when you're here. And also the real pros and cons, so you know what to expect so you don't regret your move to Indy. I'm Jason Compton, a local real estate agent here in the Indianapolis Metro, and I've helped countless families relocate to the Metro. And in this video, we're gonna break down all the things that I just mentioned so you can know if a move to Indy is right for you. So let's get into it. All right, so let's get into just some of the overview of Indianapolis and what it looks like right now and the growth of Indianapolis. So as of this year, Indianapolis itself is still considered a larger city. It's just over 900,000 people. That's much larger than they anticipated, because when you include the entire metro, so cities to the north like Carmel and Westfield and Fishers, and to the south like Greenwood, or to the west like Brownsburg, Plainfield, Avon, or even to the east, Greenfield, you're looking at 2.14 million people. So shocking to a lot that Indianapolis and the whole metro is really truly that large. And since 2020, the whole metro has grown about 4.1%, which is about 85,000 people to the metro every single year. That's actually pretty fast when you compare to other cities across the country and other metros, larger metros across the country. And some of the stuff that drives the growth of Indianapolis would be just the employment and the different hubs that you're gonna find here in Indianapolis. Be like healthcare, tech, logistics, manufacturing, and of course, motorsports. And so the GDP for Indianapolis, just the most recent one, is about $199.2 billion. And so that puts Indianapolis and the whole metro inside the top 30 as far as largest economic markets in the country, which I think is a surprise. Again, that Indy is larger than what people realize. Another big surprise is the airport for Indianapolis. It handles about 10.5 million passengers a year. It's shocking how many different places in the country that you can get to from Indianapolis easily without connecting flights. And then when you count the connecting flights, it gets kind of ridiculous. And it's consistently ranked as the #1 or close to the #1 medium-sized airport in the country for satisfaction, for ease of use. It's very easy to park in Indy. It's easy to get to your gate. It's easy to get through the terminal. Security is very rarely ever a super difficult process. It is just a wildly easy airport to navigate. I think everybody knows that Indianapolis is home to some of the top tier sports teams you're gonna find in the entire country. Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Colts play, from where I'm standing right now, is walking distance here just off to the southwest. I'm right out front of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, where the Indiana Pacers play, the Indiana Fever play. Very close to here, you're gonna have the Indy 11's new stadium, and it's said that it's being built for the possibility of an MLS expansion team. That's Major League Soccer for all you non-soccer people. So that would be a pretty big deal, walking distance from where I am right now. And then one of my favorite things to do sports-wise, and our family as well, is to go over to Victory Field, where the AAA team for the Pirates, which is the Indianapolis Indians, they play, all within walking distance from here. And then you've got the NCAA national headquarters in downtown Indianapolis at White River State Park. You don't have to like sports to live in Indianapolis. If museums are your thing, well, the Ida Jordan Museum, you've got the Indianapolis Zoo over at White River State Park. You got the State Museum over that way as well. You've got the Indianapolis Museum of Art and Newfields just to the north, not really walking distance from here. You'd have to drive to it, but just to the north. And then also short drive distance from here, you've got the world famous Children's Museum. That place is berserk. And we go there with our kids on school field trips probably at least twice a year. So we get our fill of the Children's Museum, but it's a place that is world famous, and a lot of people come to Indianapolis and want to make sure that they do that. And you definitely can't forget about the Indianapolis 500. It's the largest single day sporting event in the entire world. There's about 350,000 that actually attend the race. There are plenty of people around the track. The track's actually way bigger than what what anybody can possibly imagine until you visit it in person. And of course, if the museums aren't your thing and sports aren't your thing, you've got different festivals and fairs like the Broad Ripple Art Fair, which is an enormous event. There's roughly 20,000 people or so that'll attend that every single year. The Indiana State Fair, it's one of the nation's largest state fairs. There's about 830,000 people that attend that, and it's just over a couple weeks span, so it doesn't last really all that long. And then of course you have Gen Con, which is nationally famous. It's the world's largest gaming and tabletop gaming convention with pushing 100,000 attendees every single year. So the food and the brewery scene around Indianapolis is exploded. So again, I'm along Mass Ave, and this is where you can find a lot of the really good restaurants around Indianapolis. I'm coming up here on Modita, which my wife and I just visited not that long ago, just a few weeks ago. Unbelievably good restaurant right here in the Bottle Works district. And breweries, those are one of my favorite things. So if you like beer, there's more than 50 breweries in Indianapolis itself. And so when you then include all of the other cities and towns that surround Indianapolis, the number of breweries in the whole metro, it's approaching 100. So if you still like your Bud Light, your Miller Lite, your Mick Ultra, all the standards that you're gonna find everywhere, that's fine. They're all here too. But if you like craft beer, craft breweries, you are going to be loving a lot of Indianapolis and the surrounding areas because you have so many choices. And then when you go to restaurants, or like if you go into the garage here and you go to a couple of the bars in there, they are going to be serving a lot of the local breweries around Indy. So trying all of them is at your fingertips. You can certainly do that. Can you try all of them physically? I don't know. There sure is an awful lot, but you can spend years trying. And then also the other thing that's popping up across Indy is the coffee scene. It's kind of exploding. In fact, I am getting ready to go into Blue Collar Coffee right here behind me. This is a fun place for me to go. So a hot one or a cold brew. Cold brews, those are so good, unbelievable. You can go through Indianapolis and all the surrounding suburbs and find a million Starbucks. But all of these sprinkled in unique places with breweries and coffee shops and unique restaurants like Modita right here behind me. These things are all over the place, and it surprises people how many choices you actually have around Indy with all of these things. How about that outdoor recreation? There's actually way more here, and it shocks people how much more there is. This is the literal start of the Monon Trail. This thing is more than 30 miles long, which will take you north from downtown where I am right now. And actually behind me, this is the north split. So this is where I-65 and I-70 split from one another. And you walk under this and you're in the Bottle Works right at the north end of Mass Ave. So this is all connected. But the Monon Trail, more than 30 miles, straight through Indianapolis, straight through Carmel, straight through Westfield, clear up to Sheridan, Indiana. But it's not the only trail around. There is a lot more than just this Monon Trail, which is a little bit limiting on how many people can get to it from living close enough to it. All right, so you got the Monon Trail, then in the city here, lots and lots of other parks with different vibes and different feels. Some are louder and busier, and some are quieter. If you want something kind of busy and more urban, you got White River State Park, which is just off to the westish side of downtown. And there you're gonna find the NCAA headquarters, the Hall of Champions. You're gonna find the State Museum, you're gonna find Everwise Amphitheater, big concert venue, you're gonna find the Indianapolis Zoo right there, a really super unique city park. And then another really unique city park with a totally different feel, actually one of the biggest municipal parks in the entire country, is Eagle Creek Park on the northwest side of Indianapolis. 3,900 acres, a gigantic reservoir there as well, where you can kayak, you can row, you can sail, you can do so many things there. And trails, they have roads that you can cycle on inside the park. It is truly a gem in Indianapolis. All right, so let's talk about the housing and the cost of living in Indianapolis. The median home sale price in Indianapolis is about $325,000. That's 38 to 40% lower than what you find the median national average is gonna be across the whole country together, especially some of those major metros, almost $536,000. So it is significantly less than what you're gonna find across the country. And what you're gonna find across Indianapolis is really just a huge variety. You can get historic districts like what I'm in right now. This is Chatham Arch, just off Massachusetts Avenue. This house was built probably in around 1870, 1880, maybe a little bit later than that. Really great area. So you get some areas like this, You can go just a little bit north of here and get into places like the Old North Side, or a little north of that in Meridian Kessler, where you can get into some of the older, what used to be the suburbs for Indianapolis. It's just off to my south. If I get out of these trees, you can see where Monument Circle would be and some of the taller buildings that you find in downtown Indy, walkable from here. And that used to be the suburbs. So you get that urban style with huge, mature trees and sidewalks. And then you can also get into urban condos and lofts, like a lot of them right up here as I'm walking towards Mass Ave. Lots of that you'll find downtown and along this area, where you might live on the 3rd floor of a building or 2nd floor of a building, or you have a townhome, a little bit like the ones right here behind me. These are 2-level townhomes, and you can get into some that you might find across the entire city. 3-level townhomes, where you park in the back in your garage, and then you walk into a lower room, and then you have multiple rooms upstairs on the 2nd and 3rd floor, like your kitchen, your great room, your bedrooms and whatnot. Huge variety through there. And then of course you get into the suburbs, and the suburbs have an element of some of these things. They may have some fairly urban-ish, so I would call it urban suburban areas, where it might feel a little bit like this. It's just not going to be to the large scale that we see around here. But then you can also get into those new construction neighborhoods, those master plan communities that don't necessarily have shopping within them, but they've got amenities within them, like tennis courts, basketball court, or a pool, community-wise, walking trails, all of those things within your neighborhood. And then nearby, you'll have grocery stores and shops and different things that all of those cities and towns that surround Indy are going to have. Some of the most popular ones for people relocating, if they want that urban vibe, then I would say a place like Chatham Arch, and where I am now in Mass Ave. This is going to be really a nice spot if you like that particular kind of life. So you walk out your door and then you get into everything that's going on around me, which is kind of the heart of culture and a lot of the food scene and the art scene that you're going to find anywhere in Indianapolis. If you don't want it quite as urban, you want a little more of that urban suburban feel, then you would get into places like Broad Ripple or Meridian Kessler or Butler Tarkington, which is a neighborhood over by Butler University. And you're actually not even that far from downtown Indianapolis from there. And then of course, when you get into the suburbs, you have Carmel and Fishers and Westfield and Zionsville and Noblesville all along the north side. And then you have suburbs on the west side like Brownsburg, and on the south like Greenwood. Now housing plays into the cost of living more than really anything, but you can still find a cost of living overall, and that would be car prices, gas prices, grocery prices, just general living prices being about 14% lower than the national average here in the Indianapolis metro. Now, if you want to learn more about some of the places that I just mentioned, places and options to live that are popular, we've got a free relocation guide, a 55-page relocation guide that you can download and get some of the details on the places that I mentioned, but also some of the places that I didn't mention in there to see if you can narrow down what might be the best fit for you. You can go ahead and scan the QR code on the screen right now, or you can get it from the link in the description below. What about the job market and economy? There are some really large companies here that people, I don't think they know are in Indianapolis. Salesforce would be one of them. Their headquarters is in San Francisco, but their next largest presence is right here. And of course, the Salesforce Tower right here behind me, it makes up and dominates really the Indianapolis skyline. And then as I walk in the direction away from Salesforce, I'll get down to Eli Lilly, which is a massive drug manufacturing and pharmaceutical manufacturer in the country. And then just off to the south as well, you've got Elevance Health, which most people know as Anthem, a major insurance company, one of the biggest agrochemical companies in the country, Corteva, also located in Indianapolis. And then some other large companies like Cummins, Roche Diagnostics. You have Rolls-Royce down here, which actually doesn't make Rolls-Royce cars. They make parts for really large aircraft. You have some major hospital systems here like IU Health. You have Community Hospital. You have Ascension St. Vincent. And then you have a huge number of other smaller hospital systems scattered throughout Indianapolis and then all of the cities and towns that surround Indianapolis. Indy's also a major logistics and distribution hub in the Midwest, which isn't too surprising based on its location. Amazon has an enormous hub here in Indianapolis, houses an incredible amount from Amazon, but more than 9,000 employees are also there at Amazon. FedEx also employs about 5,800 people, major Midwest hub for FedEx at the airport here in Indianapolis. And then Walmart has their largest distribution center just on the east side of Indianapolis, close to Indianapolis Regional Airport. Manufacturing is huge here. Allison Transmission, 98,000 people and jobs in manufacturing alone. Rolls-Royce is another giant employer along with Allison. The life sciences sector, about 29,000 jobs there across a really large number of companies. Pretty surprising, about 350 different life science companies that you're going to find all across Indianapolis. And then the tech sector, the tech growth has been pretty incredible over the last 10 years. Salesforce, Eli Lilly, Infosys, they're all kind of at the forefront of especially the AI world, and as it's changing really pretty rapidly month by month. And of course, one of the more interesting things that people ask about are taxes. Right now, the income tax rate is at 3.05%, and that's actually down from just a few years ago at 3.15%. And there's plans to bring that down even more. So by the end of this year or next year, down to 3.0%, and then by 2027, down to 2.9%. So let's talk about the weather and the seasons. You are absolutely going to get 4 distinct seasons in Indianapolis. So in the summer, you want to expect hot and humid. Is it as hot and humid as you get in South Carolina, Alabama, Florida, and all that? No, but can we get in the 90s? Absolutely. Can we hit 100? Maybe, but 92 we feel like is scorching to us. Expect June through September, you can definitely get to, let's say, 85 as a normal high, and then at night, maybe around 65, 70 degrees. I don't think that one worries people as much as the winter. So if you've never experienced a winter, a true winter, you will experience winter here. It is cold from December through February. That is cold, hard winter, especially January, February, where you can expect highs around 31, 32, sometimes just in the 20s, and it doesn't climb out of there. And then we'll get a cold snap, like a really, really severe cold snap every now and then, where the highs might be in the single digits, or the lows might be in the single digits, or even sometimes below zero. That doesn't last very long, but it does get cold. The disappointing thing though, and sometimes the happy thing for people, is that we just don't get as much snow as what people would think. We might get 20 inches over the course of the entire winter. Usually that's one slightly large snowfall, maybe 3, 4, 5 inches, and then the rest is pretty much scattered throughout the winter. And then best time of year would be the spring and the fall. The spring, you can have 60s and 70s. You can sometimes hit 80, but then the next day it might be 45. It just seems a little more volatile, but the spring is still really nice coming out of the winter, and there's nothing in the world like going through a cold spell and then getting a super sunny day where the temperature gets up to about 65 degrees. But those in between seasons, it's a good and a bad time to visit a place like Indianapolis, because you can sometimes be duped into thinking that it's like that all the time. But you want to make sure that you know that we have winter, we have summer on the opposite ends of some of that super incredible pleasant weather in the spring and the fall. Now it can be fairly wet in Indianapolis. So we get about 42.5 inches of rain per year, and we get about 125 days where we get some measurable precipitation. And most of that rain actually occurs during those spring and summer months, when we can get an inch of rain at a time during a thunderstorm or a series of storms that might come through. 2,400 hours, statistically, of sunshine. So that's actually a lot of sunshine. Now, of course, with some of that precipitation and storms, people always ask about tornadoes and basements and if you need them. And tornadoes are scary. There's no question about it. But Indiana, statistically, is a tornado state, but we get 22 on average per year. 22 per year when you compare to other states like Texas and Kansas and Oklahoma and Missouri, and even next door to Illinois. They get way more tornadoes than what Indiana gets. However, we do get roughly 13 severe storm watches per year, which puts it way up there in the top 20 or so. I think we rank about 17th as far as cities, larger cities or larger metros with at least 500,000 people. So we would be considered a place that does get some severe weather, and tornadoes can sometimes be included in that. Let's go over some of those pros and cons then of living in Indianapolis generally. We've already discussed more affordable lifestyle in Indianapolis. Housing is less expensive. Overall living is a little bit under the national average as well. It's a pretty nice pro. You've got a super central location in the United States with an incredibly easy, very well connected, efficient airport right here in Indianapolis as well. That's a pretty big pro. You've got a really strong family-friendly vibe in a lot of Indianapolis, but also a lot of the cities and towns that surround Indianapolis. And Indianapolis, again, isn't a giant city. It's close to 1 million people, but being that it's under, probably more of a medium to large type of city. And so it's been called the biggest small town by a lot of people. And that generally could be a pro for quite a few. And it has a super active arts, lifestyle, culture, and sports scene. We've gone through all kinds of different options that's just scratching the surface on all the different things that you can get involved with and do and have going on around you in Indianapolis. All right, so what about the cons? Well, downtown Indianapolis and through a lot of Indianapolis, there's public transport, but man, it is really limited. It accounts for about less than 0.5% of all the travel and moving people around throughout the city. So it does exist, and the Red Line exists as well, and can make your commute or wherever you need to go maybe a little less hassle, where you find parking or just driving yourself. Maybe you can work on the bus, but it's really limited, and it doesn't extend really at all outside of Indianapolis. Potholes and road conditions, it's always tough because you have a lot of cars, a lot of people constantly traveling around Indianapolis, and then we'll also go through those different seasons, and the seasons that change is really hard on the roads. Next con is that those winters, they can be long and gray. And by the time you get into February, you are really wishing for some warm weather and some sunshine. And then if you're looking for a slower pace, Indy could be it. But if the slower pace isn't exactly your thing and you want something a little bit faster, like a New York or Miami or Los Angeles, well then Indy may not be fast enough for it. If you want more nightlife, you want just a busier city scene, you want a larger city scene, that could certainly be a con. There may not be enough in Indianapolis going on or to do or to see for you. Now, Indianapolis could be a fantastic decision to live in, but if you're looking for year-round sunshine, perfect weather all the time, top-notch, world-class nightlife, Indianapolis might not be a fit for you. I've helped a lot of families make a smooth move to Indianapolis, and I'd love to help you do the same. So if you're in that position, then feel free to reach out. You can text, you can call, or you can send an email. But if you're still early in your relocation and research process, then be sure to download that 55-page relocation guide to help you get oriented and to help get you started. And then if you're still learning, you can also continue to watch the next videos here, and we'll catch you in the next one.